Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very, very special broadcast of Impacting Life 24/7, a Friday night version of all the greatness that you guys have come to appreciate and enjoy since 2019. This is Impacting Life 24/7 with your host, CL King, coming to you live from the High Definition Studios here in Impactville. That's right. I'm sitting high atop the Ruth E. Plowden Legacy Chair, and we're so thankful for you to stop by with us to spend a few moments with us as we interview an amazing person who is doing something that truly is amazing. And their dogs appreciate them too. One of the things that I want to say before I introduce our guest is that sometimes people will hide behind circumstances and situations, and they don't have courage to do anything. But this man does not. He's running for Onslow County Sheriff. His name is John Yopp. He's a lifelong resident of Onslow County. He's been deeply involved in this community for many, many years. His family has been living in Onslow County, North Carolina, since the 1790s. They even have a road named after themselves called Yopp Road, believe it or not. And so for the past 20 years, he's been faithfully dedicated his life to serving people in this community. On September the 11th, he was interviewing with the Onslow County Sheriff's Office, and while he was in the waiting room, he was watching on the TV screens, as many of us were, the atrocities that took place during 9/11. And one of the things that he said was, as he watched those EMS workers and those first responders and those firefighters and policemen run into doomed buildings, he said, his commitment and his propensity to serve only increased. In 2001, he began serving as a correctional officer in Onslow County Jail. From there, he assumed the role of patrol officer with the Onslow County Sheriff's Office and continued to work there for several years. He is currently a sergeant. Check that out. He's a sergeant for the North Topsail Beach Police Department, and his entire law enforcement career has been spent in Onslow County. He's been doing his best and to be the best possible and bring the best possible outcome for each and every citizen that he has been called to serve. Now, listen, when I tell you this, I again say that oftentimes people can hide behind Facebook or social media and lambaste folks and lament about how bad things are. You understand? It's so easy to be an armchair quarterback and be negative and find all the reasons why things are falling apart. Or you can do like my guest tonight is doing and say, you know what, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I see some areas where we can improve. I know where my passions are. I've been serving in this community for decades, and now I want to run for public office. And I told him in the pre-show, I told John in the pre-show, I said, listen, brother, I know who I am. I'm the sheriff of Impactville, but I could not be a regular county public official. I just know that would not be my thing. But we've said on this show, we want to bring everybody on that would like to share what your story is and what your vision is. If you've got the courage, we've got the time. So I want everybody out there to listen closely and intently as we bring to our virtual studios a man with character and integrity and a passion and vision for Onslow County, North Carolina. Would you put your hands together and join me in welcoming the Onslow County candidate for sheriff, John Yopp? Welcome, John.
How y'all doing?
How are you, John? It's so good to have you on.
Great tonight.
It's so good to have you on Impacting Life 24/7, my friend.
Yes, sir. I'm enjoying this. This is I'm red in the face. My blood pressure's not up. I've been standing outside in the sun. I had no idea what running for office really took.
Yes, and you know what? That's why I looked at some of your videos. I think you posted a video today or the other day where you were out there at the polls, and I said, man, that takes a dedication and a commitment and a desire to really get down to the grassroots. So before we get busy with what we do best here at Impacting Life 24/7, John, why don't you tell people who are tuning in or who will listen later how they can contact you, sir?
Well, I've got a email address. It's Yopp for Sheriff, spelled out YOPPFORSHERIFF@gmail.com. That's my email.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and I am not afraid to do this, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to change my number if I win this election.
Okay.
My phone number is 910-320-6659. And the thing buzzes all day long in my pocket, and I'm always on the phone.
Right.
Out there at those polls, people are calling all the time, so don't be afraid to call.
Yes, sir.
I'm willing to talk to everybody. I like to know what you've got going on in your life and what concerns you have, and I'd like to give you an answer for whatever situation you're dealing with. I would like to give you an answer that is feasible and something that can be done and what should be done.
All right. Do you have a website too?
Yes, I do. It's John Yopp for Sheriff. That was www.johnyoppforsheriff.com.
johnyoppforsheriff.com. And so you can reach out to him several different ways, ladies and gentlemen. Yopp for Sheriff. That's all one word, yoppforsheriff@gmail.com. You can call him, plain old telephone service. They call that POTS in the military, 910-320-6659. And, of course, you can find him on the web at johnyoppforsheriff.com. And you can see what his platform is, what his vision is, and you can make the decision. I would suggest you would go. You got a Facebook page too, so I would suggest you go check him out right now, ladies and gentlemen. While for those of you watching live, go check him out. Just peel back the covers and find out what's going on with John Yopp. That's one thing. When we had Sheriff Chip Hughes on a couple years ago, and he's the Craven County Sheriff, good friend of ours, good friend of our show.
Good people.
Yeah, good man. One of the things that Chip and I hit off so well is that Chip has developed this unique skill set, and it's really disarming that he's got Democrats and Republicans who love him. You know what I'm saying? And that's what really
I'm finding that too at the polls.
Yeah, man. And you know what? It's like sometimes we focus on whether it's a D or an R, and I understand that that's for purposes, but also what you're doing, John, is being out there in the community. And the community, I don't look at it when I see somebody that I roll up to. I don't necessarily, first thing I ask them is, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? I'm like, hey, I'm John and you're Bill,
Mm-hmm. Some of my best friends and some of my, some of the people I've been closest to and actually had conversations about politics and about policies and about police work. And the whole time I thought, man, we were right on the same page. And come to find out, during this primary election, they come out to vote for me, and they can't vote for me because they're voting on a Democrat ticket. And we're running as all the sheriff's candidates in this county are running as Republicans.
Right.
And I'm like, what, am I on the wrong ticket?
Yeah. So, and again, ladies and gentlemen, for this very special Impacting Life 24/7 episode, we have in our virtual studios John Yopp, and you can find him at Yopp for Sheriff, YOPP for Sheriff @gmail.com. You can send him your questions in. You can call him at 910-320-6659. And of course, you can find him on the web. The website is really, really simple, johnyoppforsheriff.com. So, John, I know you, and I know that you're a man of great integrity and character and faith. But introduce yourself to our global audience. People are listening all around the country. Of course, people are listening in America, but they're also listening in other countries. So you're a total stranger to many of our listeners. So
everybody,
introduce yourself, brother. Tell us who John Yopp is.
I'm a native here of Onslow County. We're out here on the East Coast of North Carolina. Beautiful country, beautiful place. My family were fishermen and stuff like that. And my grandfather established one of the first gas stations here in Onslow County. So I'm kind of from that homegrown culture here. But at the same time, I was a little bit of a nutty youngin', and I thought I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And everybody in my family would tell me, "How, you'll never learn how to do that." But when I found out that I could do that, it changed my life. I realized there's nothing that I can't set my mind to that I cannot do. So I went ahead and just dove straight into everything that I love. So about like 2001, I started my law enforcement career at the Onslow County Sheriff's Office. And the day I went in for my interview was 9/11. And it was shocking to me that officers were leaving this work and I was coming in. So I fell in love with it. And as I continued in law enforcement work, I realized how much I truly love serving people. But I will say this, back in 1993, I got the Holy Ghost and I ended up going to a church service that changed my life back in 1993. So I already knew that I loved people and I loved helping people and I loved other people experiencing God's mercy.
Yeah.
And that was always my goal. And as I got into my law enforcement career, I realized this law enforcement career is not just, hey, I'm going to work, I'm making a paycheck.
Right.
Because I did a lot of things that made a whole lot better money than law enforcement. And I realized my heart was in it.
Right.
And I knew this is for the kingdom. This is something I was doing to be the face and the hands, the feet of God out here, where people could experience a real Christian in probably one of the hardest times of their life.
Yeah.
So I'm a guitar player. I'm married. I've got 2 boys, and between those 2 boys, I've got 2 granddaughters and 1 more on the way. So
all right.
this gray hair,
yes, sir.
It's well earned.
You've definitely earned it, John. So, well, that's amazing. And if you've never heard him play, let me just tell you, when he says he can play the guitar, he can play that guitar. Very, very blessed musician and a man of faith. And you know, one thing that we say on this show, even though our show is not necessarily, our podcast, Impacting Life 24/7, is not necessarily a faith podcast or religious podcast. We tell people that we make no apologies for our faith in God on this show. And if somebody wants to talk about God, they want to talk about the Holy Ghost, they can on Impacting Life 24/7. You understand?
You think I wasn't going to say something?
You're not going to be, hey, listen, you're not going to be canceled or censored on this show. So
I hope not.
Anyway, and so again, John, that was interesting. A little interesting fact that I did not know was that you. I know there's a Yopp Road, but it took me years before I correlated Yopp Road with actually you. That's your family lineage, huh?
That's where I grew up at. Back when I was a kid, there was a truck stop on the corner of Yopp Road, and there was a big bunch of woods back there behind it. We used to go back there hunting and playing and stuff. You know, it was a big, I mean, it was really thick wooded though. I mean, it was like underbrush and briar. So you got in there, you had to know which way to get out.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty thick up in there.
Wow. So now here we are, 2022. We've come through 2 years of an unprecedented time, and the world has been upside down on its head. For those of you who didn't listen, a couple days ago, I did a speech. I did a speech called Spatial Disorientation, and I talked about our times in which, we seem to be looking at up is down and down is up, and right is wrong and wrong is right. And it was pretty intense, y'all. So, but our times demand people that will, sometimes leave their comfort zone to do things for the greater cause of others. And so, John, being a sheriff, I mean, has this been a lifelong dream of yours?
No, but in the recent couple of, I'd say probably 6 years, it's been something that's been heavy on my mind. And I can explain, I worked at the sheriff's office, and when I first started law enforcement work, working at the sheriff's office, I would see what was happening, and I would always hear all the other guys complain. Well, they shouldn't have done this. They should do this. And everybody had their opinions. And, I realized along the way that there's probably another reason why this is happening. Why is this policy this way? And so I excused it, but it also made me think, why? Because there's got to be some underlying reason why something that seems so obvious would not be implemented.
Right.
And, so as I've continued in my law enforcement career and been, a sheriff's deputy, now a police officer, and seeing the different needs of each type of department, I realize now all that goes into and why certain policies are the way they are.
Yeah.
And I would like to get out there and change it. And as I began to think about that, I realized I want to run for sheriff. So the last election, I actually started an exploratory committee to begin actually a campaign to run for sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I decided against it the last election cycle and withdrew my name from the filing of for a candidacy for sheriff. And been working the last 4 years under the same guy who was the sheriff when I was getting ready to run before.
Right.
And I've seen things go further in the wrong direction. And I realize what actually does need to happen and what we can do better. And so this time, when I stepped in this time, I knew this is it. I've got to do this. It's the best thing for our community. So really not a dream. It's a calling. It's one that I know is going to keep me up all night. I know it's going to be really hard work.
Right.
But I'm ready for it. I think God has built me for this position right now, and I'm ready to do it. And I'm young and able. And if I ever get to the point where I don't feel like I'm able to do it anymore, I'll get out of the way and let somebody else who's able get in there.
I like that last line right there, John, because sometimes people stay past their time to be there. It's like sometimes I invite people over to the house, and John, people come over to our house and they just don't get the hint, bro. I mean, I'm like, if I'm at the house and you're over and we have dinner and we fellowship, we have a good time, then I'm yawning and I'm looking at my watch. That's the hint that you need to get out. Don't stay past the time. So I'm just teasing. But again, ladies and gentlemen, in our virtual studios, we have the candidate for Onslow County Sheriff, John Yopp. You can find him at yoppforsheriff@gmail.com. Of course, you can call him on Plano telephone service. He said he will not change his number if elected. That number is 910-320-6659. And again, on the web, you can go to his website tonight to find out more about John at johnyoppforsheriff.com. johnyoppforsheriff.com. And so maybe some people, I joke around. I've been a sheriff several times, but it was for church, John. I was Sheriff Sunday here at Jacksonville, and then I was who was I? I was Sheriff Text, like Bible Text. Yeah, I was Sheriff Text way back in the days with Sheriff over Camp Harmony. But what actually is a county sheriff, and kind of give us an understanding of what their roles and responsibilities are?
Sheriff traditionally is a little bit different. One of the other candidates, every time we go to a forum, he likes to school us what a sheriff is and where the concept came from. He was a liaison between the people and the king.
Okay.
That's not quite the situation anymore. Basically, the situation is a sheriff has got a set of duties. He's got to do paper service. So if there's someone with a lawsuit, if they're being evicted from their home, if the judge has ordered that they pay fines and they don't have money to go take property. So that's all, serving warrants, things like that. So that paper service is probably one of the most important factors. One of the things that happens, so for instance, if I win this race, I've got to put up a cash bond of the most, it being $25,000 to be the sheriff. So if I neglect the paper service, then they can revoke my bond. And if I cannot pay that bond in 48 hours, replace that bond in 48 hours, I will have to be removed from office. That's the one way you can get rid of your sheriff.
So, that's a quick way right there, huh? Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the sheriff is he's in control of the jail. So the facility that houses people that are being detained pre-trial. And don't get this confused as we speak. I'm going to be, emphasizing the fact that jail is not punishment. Jail is a pre-trial detainment, for people that are high risk for flight, not being at their court date. That's one thing to always remember. And I always tell my officers, don't you forget your position, because your position is not to punish anybody.
Right.
Your position is to get that case to the courthouse. Now, also, we take care of the courthouse. So we've got bailiffs and administrators, who help the courts keep security at the courts. And also we have a patrol division, and we do investigations and stuff like that too. So we patrol out in our counties. Another thing that we do is we're school resource officers. So we've got officers that actually protect our children at the schools.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that the sheriff is tasked with, but that's ultimately what we deal with.
And thank you, John. And if I'm correct, if help me, because again, I just dabble into these areas, y'all. Some people think that I have folks on the show because I'm so smart. It's not that case at all. In fact, I get an education every time I have a guest. So I love it. I'm like, I will be smart one day when I turn over Impacting Life 24/7 to somebody else.
Maybe me too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the sheriff, though, the county sheriff, is the only duly elected law enforcement officer, right?
And technically that is another issue that I didn't really bring up.
Okay.
The sheriff is your constitutional protection, and him being an elected official, when the people of the county elect that individual, they're saying, this is the man I want standing at my door when the FBI decides they're going to come and serve a search warrant on my house. This man should be there to make sure that the FBI doesn't violate my rights, that they don't go, if they're looking for a person, the sheriff should be the guy grabbing the FBI agent by the arm going, buddy, what are you looking in the drawer for?
Right.
Because you can't hide a person in the drawer.
Right.
So, he's your constitutional protection. And when it comes down to a federal government taking more power than what they're rightfully able to take, like these mandates, somebody has got to stand there and say, y'all are not shutting down my businesses. You're not going to stop my people from going to church by closing my churches. And here we're letting these people do what they have the constitutional right to do. That's what your sheriff is supposed to do. And it takes a man with a lot of guts to stand up to a federal or even a state government that would overrun our rights.
Yeah, so the sheriff definitely carries a lot of weight and has a lot of weighty responsibilities. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined, for those of you who are tuning into our podcast, which is do you guys want to know a new statistic my team gave me today? That Impacting Life 24/7 has been downloaded in 92% of America. Wow, who knew? I was like, we're doing some modifications and refinements to the show. And I'm like, man, guys, we just slow, steady, just continuing to show up every day for work. And so thank you. That's 46 states that Impacting Life 24/7 has been downloaded in. And I guess we just got 4 more. If somebody out there could just send us the 4 other states, we'll have all across America. And we're joined in our virtual studios by my friend and the man running for Onslow County Sheriff, John Yopp. You can find him at yoppforsheriff@gmail.com. You can call him directly if you got questions after this show, and he may have sparked some interest in your mind about, okay, well, maybe I was leaning one way in my selection. Now maybe I need to talk to this man a little more. Call him at 910-320-6659. And again, if you want to use the World Wide Web, just go to johnyoppforsheriff.com. So, John, as we look into because everybody has a platform, right? And I think that's an important thing. Obviously, I know your faith is your foundation. Your trust and belief in God is your foundation, and you have given him credit at the onset. You talked about in 1993, the Lord came down like fire from heaven, and we understand that, and that's very, very important. I told somebody asked me this the other day. I was being interviewed somewhere in Atlanta, and they said, "So, King, because I've got, my book's coming out in July, and they said, tell us how you have overcome all of these obstacles. And I said, it was my foundation. My foundation is God. Everything else is just a window dressing. And I know some people may say, well, that's a crutch. Well, you let me use my crutch and you use yours. You got it? And so anyway, I'm not nearly as radical as people think, but at the end of the day, that's the centerpiece for all that we do. And so you have a platform, and it's important if you're running for office that people know kind of the elements that are important to you. And so one of the things that you discuss, and you guys can find this at johnyoppforsheriff.com, you said, I will place community service and protection first, working with various community leaders to create a plan that will benefit the safety of all Onslow County residents. So you're talking about a community service and protection first. So talk about that, what your vision is behind that.
Everybody comes up with a plan. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I'm telling you, I am a boots on the ground law enforcement officer. I talk to the community all the time. You'll be surprised the things that they're concerned about. You'll be surprised about the things that they know is going on,
right? And
also the things that they'll share with you. But you've got to be open. You've got to be ready to hear, to listen, and not just listen, but to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell this story. This one time I was driving through a neighborhood. I was just doing a neighborhood check, making sure everything looked good, making sure nobody's house is, a vacant house with the door open or something. And
right.
This lady stopped me. She said, I see you come through here all the time. You're a good servant to our community. Could you help me? I'm like, are you trying to get me to help you? All you got to do is ask.
Right.
And she said, well, if you would help me move this pot into my house, I would really appreciate it. I said, sure, I will help you. She was a little lady.
Uh-huh. And
as I got out the patrol car, I said, wait a minute. This better be a plant in a pot. And this better not be a duffel bag.
Right.
but
right.
When I talk about community service and things like that,
mm-hmm.
Man, we have to be involved in our communities.
Right.
The car on the side of the road needs a tire change. I mean, it could be anything, somebody upset about something, but no matter what you do, if you do something to help every person that you come across, it could just be a kind word,
right?
Something like that. It needs to happen, but that also increases your ability to understand what's going on in your community.
That's right.
And community service should be something that every officer participates in. And it's something that your leader in your department should be able to exemplify for you, so that you don't see officers sitting behind the school hiding and doing a report, even if they're doing a report. I mean, they don't need to be hiding. They need to make themselves available for their community at all times.
Well, and I'll tag him again, Sheriff Chip Hughes. He went with my great friend, Dr. Tabari Wallace, Tabari Wallace was actually the first principal to give me my first speaking job years and years and years ago. Well, Tabari Wallace was the Craven County. He was where is it at? Where it's on the west end of Craven, that high school, West Craven High School. Yeah. And it was right during the height of the pandemic. And so 2020, the kids couldn't have a normal graduation. So Tabari, being the amazing person that he is, got together with Chip and he said, we're going to go and deliver signs to every single graduate. Now, think about the square miles, right, that they had to cover in Craven County. And him and Tabari did that. They put some resources together, and they made a little ceremony for each one of those 2020 graduates, and it got so much recognition. Ellen DeGenerate had Tabari on her show. It was a national thing, and Sheriff Chip Hughes he leads like that. And that's what I appreciate what you said, John, is that we do have to be visible in our community. We do have to have our fingerprints on the citizenry in our community.
Yeah, it is vital. An officer who wants to be of help, will always be someone that not only is willing to, but they'll be called on.
Yeah,
and the more you're called on, the better you will be to serve your community. I mean, I've watched videos where guys are at Thanksgiving and they're just standing out there and they pull somebody over and they think they're getting a ticket, and the officer walks up and hands them a frozen turkey. And says, Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, just that kind of thing would be great if we would get back to serving our people for real.
Yeah.
Really being of service to our people.
I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we are at Impact Life 24/7. We're blessed to have in our virtual studios John Yopp. He is a candidate for Onslow County Sheriff, and you can find him at yoppforsheriff@gmail.com. You can find him. You can call him directly at 910-320-6659, and also on the web, you can find him at johnyoppforsheriff.com. People ask King CL, of course. They say, why do you give out people's information so much? When I have a guest on, we make it our point to give out their information 20, 25 times in the midst of the show. Why? Because I want to add value to you. Your time is valuable. And that has always grated on my nerves when I'm a guest on somebody's show and they wait to the very end to say, well, tell people how they can find you. I get 5 seconds to say, oh, find me at cokingspeaker.com. And I'm like, but you didn't have me talk for. And so that's kind of like our signature thing, is that if you come on this show, we want it to be of value to you, not just value to us. You follow me? So all y'all podcasters out there, learn from CL, the Impact Motivator. Anyway, John, I'm sorry, that was a commercial break. You talk about treating people with respect and fairness and working hard to gain their trust. Gaining trust in your community, especially in community policing, is important, huh?
Yes, it is. People know. I mean, how many times have you had dealings with the police and you turned around and thought, why didn't they arrest that guy?
Yeah.
Why didn't that guy go to jail? Once they know that you're putting out everything that you've got available to serve them, every time you go above and beyond,
right.
Every time it shows,
right.
And people will gain your trust. Now, I'm a father and I've got, my kids are grown now. But if they got in trouble for something today, they know that they would get in trouble for it if they did it again tomorrow,
right,
and the next day. And so that there's a consistency, and that consistency also, in that consistency, they know that if someone else did to them what they got in trouble for, they would also be in trouble for it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sense of security and a consistent, principled police force that is there to serve their community. That grows trust.
Yeah.
And it grows trust throughout the community when they know that the officers that work for them, because that's who we work for,
mm-hmm.
the officers that work for them are there for them and are not hiding, not trying to avoid them. They're
right.
there and they're available. And it, that sense of security, also the protection side of it, the fact that I'm going to put my life on the line for anybody.
Right.
This is a Christian concept, because the Bible says there's no greater love hath any man than this, and a man would lay down his life for his friend.
Right.
That is why I believe that America is a Christian nation, because we live in a free society. We're the land of the free and the home of the brave, because people could use our freedom. They could use our laws, the freedom to have guns and things like that against us.
Mm-hmm.
But also the same freedom could leave someone being injured and neglect. So
right.
It's a free society is a very dangerous society. And every person within this society should be willing to give of themselves.
Yeah.
That is why I would consider this a Christian nation, because giving your life for someone else's freedom is the basis of that giving.
Yeah, the call
that is required.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one more factor that a lot of people miss in that a lot of people in other countries pay the same price, because freedom costs blood.
Right.
And people in other countries pay the same price, but they don't get to enjoy the level of freedom that we do in the United States.
Right.
And being a police officer, I'm willing to give my life to protect it and make sure it stays.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, John. And again, if you want to find out more about John Yopp, just go to johnyoppforsheriff.com. Or if you got questions for him, we're going to be adding the call-in feature here shortly. I think we're starting Monday, ladies and gentlemen, where people can call in live. Cool. Yes, and it's just the technology. We're ever increasing our digital footprint here at Impacting Life 24/7, and so you can call him at 910-320-6659. Another thing that you say, John, man, time is just getting away from us. We got to hurry, John. Another thing that you talk about
I'll make the answers short.
No, you're good, man. Another thing that you talk about is one of your platforms and visions is to concentrate more police officers in areas where crime is high and in those areas that have been neglected. So are those one and the same, or are they two different focus areas?
Well, they're two different focus areas. But one in particular, if you're familiar with Onslow County, there's an area called Sneed Ferry.
Yep.
So it's kind of off in a faraway corner, it's kind of disconnected from the rest of the county.
Yeah. When I go there, I feel like I'm going out of town.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always traditionally been kind of the Wild West, so to speak, out there. I mean, anything goes, a high crime area, drug manufacturing, all kinds of problems. But now, because of the retirees from the military, people are retiring, they're building houses down there. And now it's kind of caught on. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful part of the world. It's a nice little old fishing community. And I mean, you've got shrimp boats with their masts sticking up. It's just a beautiful place.
Right.
And so we've got people moving in with a lot of money, retiring from big business. And there's a lot of really wealthy gated communities moving in. And so our demographic down there is changing quickly. And so while this is happening, we've got this criminal element that has traditionally targeted anybody with money. And now we're moving them in. And it's like, hey, something's got to happen.
Right.
And we've got one deputy down there most of the time.
Ooh.
We need at least 3 down there.
Okay.
But, we've got one most of the time. And that needs to stop. There has to be a point at which we stop being reactive and start being proactive.
Yes.
Too many, you're not being reactive anymore. Now you're just harassing people.
Right.
We don't need a police force that's harassing people. We need a police force that is well functioning and right in that good level where they're being proactive. So they're patrolling neighborhoods, reducing crime by even just their presence being there.
Right.
Instead of chasing from one crime to the next and just going from report to report.
Yeah.
And while you're taking the last one, something else is happening down the street that you're going to be going to, that if you were proactive, you could have headed off before it happened.
Right. Yeah. And I like the idea of understanding, being a proactive police force. I understand. Listen, crime, as long as we've been living, crime is since there's been earth and people on it, there's been crime. Right.
Yes,
but you and I talked about this, and this is something that is important. It's important for me because I did a 3-part series, John, a couple weeks ago, and it was about the opioid epidemic and the fentanyl crises. They said that it's costing our country $1 trillion a year, this fentanyl issue and the opioid issue in particular. And I've talked openly about how I know firsthand the power of opioids. In fact, you were the guy who helped me get motivated to get off of them. Because you had a back surgery years ago. I had a back surgery, and they told both of them failed, 2 back surgeries. And they said, hey, listen, you're going to be on opioids for the rest of your life. And it really is the first thing you think about when you wake up and the last thing you think about when you go to sleep. And so, but now that take that and magnify that through our communities, and then throw on top of that the dangers of fentanyl. It's like we cannot continue to kick the can down the road. So you said right, and you said that I wouldn't surprise you by any questions. So we didn't prepare for this one, John, but we did talk about it. What is your thoughts on this opioid epidemic, and how can we as a community, as a law enforcement, how can we get ahead of this thing? Because we're losing too many kids, brother.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, let me lay out a little bit more about it, why it's so important.
Okay.
It's not just the fact that we're losing people to opioid overdoses and fentanyl overdoses, and the fact that it could be our own kids end up caught up in this.
Right.
The fact is, it can also be a major detriment. Remember, I was talking about that community a minute ago where all these wealthy people are moving in. We
Right.
don't want them to start becoming the victims of a break-in, or where somebody's just trying to rob them to get money to go buy more drugs.
Right.
Which is one of the biggest, drugs is the biggest driving force for other types of crime in all of our communities. So when you think of that factor, I mean, I don't want anyone to get hurt or be injured because somebody broke into their house.
Right.
But I also don't want any of my citizens to have to shoot somebody
Right.
to protect their family and then live with the fact that they've killed somebody, when we can do more about it.
Right.
So on that note, the situation with the opiate epidemic, it's running away from us. And especially since COVID has gotten worse,
Yeah.
people sitting at home with nothing to do.
Right.
And some people, I would say that there is a larger number of people that came by their opiate addiction by no fault of their own.
Right.
Through back surgeries and
Yep.
things like this, by an injury that they were recovering from, got them stuck there.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing, but it's not like somebody that wants bread, to go feed their family. This is, like you said, it's the first and last thing on their mind. It's the only thing that they're worried about all day long.
Yeah.
And, they will rob you blind and you won't even know they were there. They're the best pickpockets in the world. They'll get your money and you'll be like,
yeah,
what happened to my wallet?
Right.
And it's an addict. He
Right.
wanted your money so he could go buy some more stuff.
Right.
But getting these people, I know from firsthand experience that when an opiate addiction breaks, when you break that addiction and they start to realize who they were and how long they have been taken away from, there's a little light that comes on, that little glimmer of hope when they go, wait a minute, I used to like to play practical jokes.
Yeah.
And then when they realize that they miss the person that they used to be,
Right.
it's a magical moment in their life. So that being said, we need to implement a program like the LEADS program. North Carolina has implemented this. It's coming down through the training and standards. We've got classes to train officers on how to get people into this program. So police offices like Onslow County here, JPD signed on to it. So what they'll do is they get someone who's a user and they'll arrest them. And then let's say they've got a misdemeanor crime. They may work with the courts to get them on deferred prosecution. But the deferred prosecution, they say, okay, we're not going to send you to jail for 3 years. What we're going to do is we're going to put you on probation and you're going to go to treatment. You're going to go to rehab.
Right.
And at rehab and all this, we're going to check to make sure that you're on the treatment and getting off the opiates.
Right.
And this is going to be part of your release program. And we're going to help you with training to get back into school or whatever, get back to work. We're going to get you to be a contributing member to society again. Now, a lot of guys get into these programs and they fall out. But even if they fall back out, the second time through, they're more likely to be successful.
Yeah.
The second time through. So the third time through, and the whole time I'm just going, God, please don't let this guy OD, man. We're working on this guy.
Yeah.
We're trying to get him straightened out. So that's a program that would really greatly help our community.
Man.
And just drug awareness, people understanding the dangers of how addictive these substances are and how easily fentanyl can kill you. Just a little tiny pinhead amount of fentanyl, car fentanyl will kill somebody.
Graveyard
and you don't
dead.
even have to stick it in your body.
Nope.
You can touch it.
Yep.
and it'll kill you.
And John, I was thinking about this when I was going through, because my back surgery, I think, was in 2016, and then it failed, and then 2017, and it failed. And they said, well, you're just going to be on pain management for the rest of your life. Of course, I met you sometime around in that time frame, and you had compassion on me, but I knew that there was a problem, John. Like, let's say I would go, and I was legal. I wasn't breaking in nobody's house. I got good insurance, so I went to CVS and they took care of me, right? But look,
pick yours up.
Yeah, right, no problems. But here's one thing that I knew where it was becoming a problem was like one or two times throughout the cycle, whatever. I'd go to CVS and there would be something wrong with the paperwork, right? So I couldn't get my refill of my 30-day supply. Now you talk about somebody getting a little twisted when they
worked up.
when you go like, look, okay, I'm coming in there. Yes, I'm here to pick up my oxycodone, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we got to fax the doctor, and it's gonna take another 24 hours. I'm like, okay, we about to have a problem up in this joint, right? But you're right. And this is why we, again, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here from John Yopp, running for Onslow County Sheriff. He does have a vision and a plan. Notice that everything wasn't punitive. Everything's, sometimes we just want to drop the hammer, but in reality, we're dealing with human beings that are truly in a struggle for their lives, John.
That's where we need compassion.
Right.
Really need compassion. And jail is not always the answer. When it comes down to mental health issues and opiate addictions, things like this, people get themselves into situations, and sometimes, again, no fault of their own. There was a lady who I know had a head injury, and everybody thought that she had some kind of a mental breakdown. And we're talking about a Christian woman, would never say a cuss word,
right,
would never consider smoking, doesn't drink. A year later, she's drinking all the time. She's smoking cigarettes. She's cussing everybody out. And I'm like, this is not the same woman I knew 4 years ago. What's going on here?
Right. And,
but the problem is with mental health, we always wait till they become a danger to themselves or others.
Right.
Like here we've got the what we call a community medic program, where if we got someone having a mental health issue, we can call the community health, the community medic. They'll come out and they'll evaluate them. And if they consider them to be a danger to themselves or other, then they can involuntarily commit them and get them put into a facility where they'll get evaluated by a mental health expert. But the problem is if they are really a danger to themselves or others, and a lot of times we're waiting for them to try to commit suicide,
right,
or do something like that, or injure someone else. But if they hurt someone else, now there's a crime.
Right.
And once there's a crime involved, it's a whole other situation. But it still is not workable. It's not past help, because again, through deferred prosecution, the prosecutor can come in and say, let's strike a deal with this person. They need mental health help. They don't need to go to jail.
Right.
And at that point, we can court ordered, they go get evaluated, which ultimately is a little bit different how I got this lady with the head injury some help. I was able to get adult protective services before she became a danger to herself or others, which is another avenue, but it's very hard to get there. And once they court ordered that she get evaluated, they found out that she had this head injury, and the head injury was the cause of her mental condition. So now she's gotten help, and she's 100 times better. She is doing great. I check on her all the time.
She ain't cussing people out no more, huh, brother?
No, she's doing good. She quit drinking.
That's good, man. That's a country song. I'm not cussing nobody out. I quit drinking, and my dog's barking, right?
She told one of my officers that he was the devil in the uniform, and I was like,
"Oh man!"
And she said she could sense the black darkness all over him. So I was afraid to, but I asked her, I said, "What about me?" She said, "Oh, you have the Spirit of God."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Well, thank you." So,
well, that, again, that's an example of compassionate leadership. And ladies and gentlemen, we have in our virtual studios, those of you who are listening to our podcast and you hear little the little fluffy dog in the background. He's just excited to be on Impacting Life 24/7 too. We've got a candidate for Onslow County Sheriff, John Yopp. You can contact him at yoppforsheriff@gmail.com if you got questions that you'd like to ask him. Early voting has already started in Onslow County, and then the main the main election date is May 17th, right, John?
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, also you can call him 910-320-6659 or johnyoppforsheriff.com. Now, one of the things that, we are right in the middle of talking about, why somebody, the responsibilities and the intricacies and the nuances of the customer service aspect of being a sheriff, right? And yeah. John and I found this out. We were talking about this before the show, in the pre-show, that Onslow County is 767 square miles. That's a lot of square miles. I just walked 3 square miles a day cutting the grass, but that's a lot of square miles. And you talked about enhancing relationships with our municipal police departments, and you got a really cool idea, because like we were discussing, some areas just don't have enough resources. And so I would love for you to kind of explain your vision. Let me see if I get it right here. You said that you patrol officers available for service by adding dual sworn officers from all municipalities. And when we were talking about this in the pre-show, I thought this was a really cool idea. Explain it to the folks, John.
Now, this is nothing new. Other agencies and other departments, other sheriff's offices have actually done this. We used to do this here, but it's a program that eventually just kind of faded away. There's been some, for about the past 2 decades, there's been a little bit of bad blood between the sheriff's office and our municipalities. Jacksonville Police Department is right in the middle of our county. It's right in the middle of our county seat. And we've got a couple of other towns pretty far out, almost to the very edges of our county borders. One of them is the department I work for right now, which is North Topsail Beach. We're a little strip, Outer Banks Island off the coast of North Carolina, and there's a big bridge that goes over into an area called Sneed Ferry, and I've described that area as being lawless. So if we had a dual sworn officer program, the function here is that you've got 2 sides to North Carolina's trainings and standards. You've got the sheriff's trainings and standards on one side, and you've got the criminal justice trainings and standards on the other side. The sheriff's trainings and standards are a lot more lax. They're easier to get to. They're easier to get someone certified under. The criminal justice side is very stringent. It's a lot more that has to be done, and it's a lot more rigorous program to get someone certified.
Right.
But it's easy to move somebody from criminal justice, which covers our municipalities, and get them as to cross over into the sheriff's trainings and standards, because it's so much easier to deal with.
Okay.
I'm not wanting to move officers as dual sworn officers from the sheriff's office to another municipality. I want it to go the other way.
Okay.
Because those municipalities are already being called on all the time. And when they get called on, we respond. But the problem is we don't respond immediately. We have to be asked to come and respond.
Right. So
the issue becomes a policy situation that could be avoided by the dual officers, by the dual sworn officer program. The officers out there on the road, man, we all get along great. We love each other. We've got a great camaraderie going along with each other, but it's the admin staff of the departments that have trouble dealing with, because it's always a liability issue about this, a liability issue about that.
Right.
So this program would eliminate the liability issues, and it also, because they're working together to make sure that the training and the standards fit each department, those admin staffs will have to work together to make sure that everybody that's in this program will work together and this can function. So if I'm called on right now under our mutual aid agreement, not only is my department liable if something happens and someone gets hurt while I'm helping someone, then if something happens in my patrol zone while I'm absent, my department is also liable for that. The way that I'm trying to set this up is, and the way it used to be done was, if you were a dual sworn officer, you went to you went to the sheriff's office and you got your training updates, and you learned how the sheriff's office responds, and you learn their standard operating procedures.
Right.
So that when you respond in lieu of them, you've been trained, and if something happens for a dual sworn officer responding for the sheriff's office, they would be that agency wouldn't be responsible. The sheriff's office would be responsible.
Right. Understand.
When another agency gets laid open for a violation of somebody's rights,
right,
they get blamed for an injury, maybe it's a broken toe, whatever, they're liable. It makes that agency helping the sheriff's office say, wait a minute.
Yeah, we don't want to be.
We're not going to respond until they request us.
Right.
Because if we respond too early, then we're completely liable. And so they're finding ways to keep their agency from being liable for actions that happened for another agency.
Right.
And it also causes those officers to make sure that they don't get involved. And the simple fact is, the people of our communities deserve better.
Yeah.
They deserve a functioning law enforcement officer that can take whatever action needs to be taken when he arrives. So this is why I really, and you can see how many different situations this does affect.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it will help our community completely, all the way around, all sides.
Well, my hope is, John, that if you're elected, that would be something, because here's the deal. The way I explained it, the way he explained it to me in the pre-show was basically, a municipality can help you, but they at the present, the way it's set up, they will only respond if called upon, if given permission. Yeah. But under this dual sworn, what is it called again?
Dual sworn officer program.
The dual sworn officer program. An officer can respond if he's dual sworn as soon as they hear it. Right, which reduces response time, which gets your needs met sooner instead of waiting on, and that's really good, because as you say, at the end of the day, our people deserve better. Our people deserve the response time. And, John, one last thing before, can you believe that we have been on here an hour? That's just like, I can't believe it. Well, you can, and I know that. So that's why, I had you on. And of course, I appreciate your vision and understanding of the issues. But, one last thing before we go, John, a lot of people get so, I heard someone say the other day, we actually have more in common than we don't. In other words, we're saying these are polarizing times, and one side's against the other and all that. And really, I hope that people listening to you tonight would hear that, man, you just casted a vision. You didn't beat anybody over the head with a hammer. You know what I mean? And I don't think people should have to constantly apologize for their convictions and beliefs, and they can still have those, but still be respectful and kind to other people. And you've demonstrated that greatly. What I'd like for you to do is just take the next minute. I'm only giving you 60 seconds, future sheriff, to just speak to your potential future constituency out there, and give them a word from John Yopp, candidate for sheriff. The floor is yours.
Well, I'm going to be everybody's sheriff. I know that right now we're running in this Republican primary, and, I am finding out there on the campaign trail that we are all more alike than you ever imagined. We all care about the same issues. But I want everyone to know that I care about my constituency, no matter what, if it's an R or D in front of your name, or if you're unaffiliated or a liberal or a conservative, it doesn't matter. We all deserve to be protected. We all deserve to be heard. We all deserve to be treated fairly and unbiased. And that is exactly what you'll get from me. I'm telling you, I have grown up watching people treat other people terrible. And that's one of the things that drove me to do law enforcement. And when I first got into it, I realized this is my calling because we need good representatives to help our people. I had no idea I'd end up running for office, but my phone number, he said it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, while I'm campaigning, they'll try to give me my card back. I'm saying, I don't care if you voted for me or not, and I don't care if I'm not even on your ballot. Keep my number, because if you need it one day, you can call me.
Yeah.
And everybody, I've seen sheriffs have a circle of friends that would call them anytime they needed them, and that's the only people that could call them.
Right.
I want the entire community to feel free to call their sheriff and tell them what issue they're dealing with and get some kind of response and get something done. Because I'm not a do nothing.
Right.
I'm gonna do something.
Do something.
And I'm gonna listen. And I'm gonna do everything I can to help our community. Doesn't matter who you are.
Well, you heard that from John Yopp. We gave him a little more than a minute, ladies and gentlemen, but we won't we won't charge him for that one. John Yopp for Sheriff. All you got to do is go to yoppforsheriff@gmail.com. It's very simple and a very open and transparent person looking for not just your vote, but to connect and collaborate and unite this community of Onslow County. Additionally, you can call him if you've got further follow-up questions, 910-320-6659. And I've given his website out. And, of course, that's John Yopp for Sheriff, johnyoppforsheriff.com. And so, John, we thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. And I hope that Impacting Life 24/7 has treated you well. And I hope you've enjoyed this time. Please share this video. If you guys are interested in supporting John, just go to those areas that I told you to. You can go to his website to donate, get out and help him campaign. And we're looking forward to seeing some results positive by somebody who's really caring about their community. So with that, John, we thank you so much. And we hope that you have a good night. And thank you for joining us on Impacting Life 24/7.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a great night.
All right. You too.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes. How y'all like the new setup here, huh? Yeah, we got everything going on. I was wondering what that smell was. I actually got the candle burning behind me. I didn't realize that. Thank you, John Yopp for Sheriff. And he is a candidate here in Onslow County. And he's running for county sheriff. I don't know why anybody would throw their hat in politics because it's a different world. But when his response was, this is my calling, I feel called to do it. You know what? You can't argue with that. You can argue with people's methods. You can argue with people's ideology, but you can't argue with their experience, like why they're doing something. And so that's John Yopp for Sheriff. Again, one last time, Yopp for Sheriff. That's YOPP for Sheriff @gmail.com. Telephone number is 910-320-6659. And his website is johnyoppforsheriff.com. All right, so we're excited to launch back, be back here in I don't know how many hours it is from now till Monday. It's Friday, so let's just enjoy it, y'all. We put these special events together when people reach out to us and want to be on Impact Life 24/7. I'm really just blown away, guys. 92% of America, our show has been downloaded in 92%, at least one state. I'm talking about 92% of all the states that Impacting Life has been downloaded in. And we're very, very blessed by that. And I said this to our team, I've posted it, and I say it consistently, that we are not interested in becoming viral. We're interested in just being valuable. You'll see behind me many of our sponsors, their books, people who've been on the show. We kind of revised and revitalized the studio, made it more of a user-friendly experience. I hope y'all like it. It's easy on the eyes. And we're doing this for a bigger cause. And I've got some big announcements for you guys that I'm going to share with you on Monday, talking about the direction and the impact of where we're going as Impacting Life 24/7. I can't wait to share that with you. I will probably do that because our show time is changing. We're going to be lean, mean, and do our thing. You know what I'm saying? Did that rhyme? Did that actually rhyme? Our show is going to go from 7 to 7:30 starting Monday, and it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 7 to 7:30. So this was our last hour-long broadcast. We're going to go from 7 to 7:30 from here on out. Of course, Mike Black will be joining me. We just added a new staff member to our team, Vera Dixon, who helped bring about some of the news that I've got to tell you. And we're just looking forward to it. The book is continuing to come along. I'll be writing more on that tomorrow. And really, this movement is a movement that is not going anywhere. All right, when we first started, I thought this is a joke. Now look at it, man. I mean, look at it. To God be the glory. So, John Yopp for Sheriff, if you'd like to talk with him, just call 910-320-6659. I'm hoping that I can go find a steak somewhere if it's not too late, because I didn't eat dinner and nobody made me any dinner after cutting all that grass today. So if not, I'll just go make me a bologna sandwich. Tune in to Impact Life 24/7, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night, 7 p.m. All that'll change. And we're also going to add and include phone calls, and we'll have a number for that. So just looking forward to the great things God is going to do with us and through us. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk to you again soon.